And if you're not a premium member, please do consider joining. We'd love to have you on board, and we'd love to have you supporting us. If you're watching us on the recording on the YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe, and please press the bell to stay up to date with the video content. Tonight we have Spartan FX here to talk about money transfer, and Spartan are one of our preferred partners. I'd just like to sort of cover just a few points about why they are a preferred partner. As with all our preferred partners, we do background checks to be sure the companies we're recommending to you are trustworthy, that they're financially stable, legally registered, and comply with all taxation requirements in their country of registration. And we have signed agreements with them in place to honor all of this. But to add to that with Spartan, I think three key reasons why we love working with Spartan. Firstly, the cost of money, the cost of transferring money through them is very cost effective when compared to regular banks. And I know this from personal experience because Spartan went around when I moved to Portugal and I needed to move a good few thousand pounds here. And it cost me an absolute fortune. I was shocked at how much it cost. I wish Spartan had been around when I needed them. I love that there are opportunities to forward plan. Right now, it's a very good time to buy euros if you have dollars or if you have pounds. Spartan have some great facilities to allow you to lock down the rates, something to consider if you're close to thinking about moving money. And finally, I think in this day and age, it's very unusual to have a company offering such a personal service. There's a single contact person for all the communications through Spartan, and everything is done on a personal service. And that's one of the key reasons for us recommending them. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Carl to host tonight's show, and Carl and Sarah to have some very constructive conversation. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Okay. A brilliant introduction from Jerry there. Covered some of our ground, and we'll go in deeper into that. Wasn't that great?
It was. There's no jump for me. Thanks, Jerry.
That's okay, Sarah. You can put the check in the post. Thank you.
So if we could begin, for those who don't know you, Sarah, can we have a brief introduction to Spartan FX, please?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my name is Sarah and I work for Spartan FX. Personally, I've been in the foreign exchange industry for about 15 years now. All our directors have similar experience, some 20 years in the business. And we've all worked for larger companies, but they set up Spartan FX in 2018 because they believed that it could be done better. We'd sort of seen a little bit of a slip with our previous companies on service for customers. What we wanted was just to have that one point of contact for everything that you need, so that you're not speaking to 5 different people. There's always someone on hand. We can take WhatsApp calls and just offer that really good level of service for our customers. So the key things really is that, yes, we can save you money, but, you know, moving country, buying property can be quite a stressful experience. So we just want to try and make that part of it as easy as possible for our customers, essentially.
Excellent. So there's your introduction to Spartan, and it might be good, mightn't it, not to have a look at the rates at the moment. Very exciting if you're an American, especially.
Absolutely.
If you could talk in general terms about the currency rates, and let's bear in mind that, of course, these are subject to change. These are a snapshot of today. Nothing of what we're talking about tonight is financial advice, but it's good to get a picture of what's going on at the moment. So let me do that from my end. Okay, as you tell us a little bit about the overview.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why one of the reasons why we want to talk about it on this webinar, and what we want you to take away really is that think about moving your money before you actually need the service, whether it be you're thinking about it before you leave a home country, but also more importantly, thinking about it because of the rate of exchange. It can really have a bearing on the cost of your euros. So we like to get to know everybody. Everybody's situation is different. What's your budget? What's your situation? And then we can help you advise, because really, yes, we're looking at if you've got a payment in the next few weeks, the next month, we're looking at the exchange rates at the moment. But also what we do as well is we look historically, because we're looking at trends in the market, but also we're trying to look at the big picture, because a lot of you are starting this journey and it could be 6 months, 12 months until you actually make the move. and the timeframes of actually needing payments can really vary, which is why we really want to talk about how the rates can affect those payments that you need to make on this journey to Portugal. So as Carl said, if you're buying, if you're selling US dollars and buying euros, it's a great time at the moment. We're at 20-year highs. So if we think about sort of even the last 3 years, what moves the market generally is things that are natural disasters, wars, pandemics. We have data releases, we have sentiment, we have politics, all really impacts the exchange rates. And really, we've experienced a lot of events over the last 3 years that are really out of our control. And the problem with that is nobody knows, not to quote Ben's a little bit cheesy, I'm afraid, he said, no one knows what's around the corner, but we don't to a certain degree. Yes, we can, as I said, look at historic trends. Yes, we can, forecast what data is going to come out and what we expect that to be. But some of these things like Brexit, COVID, the war, and now the risk of global recession is a little bit really unknown, unfortunately. But that's what can cause quite a lot of volatility. So at the moment, euro is quite vulnerable, which is why we've seen the movement, also US dollars strengthened as well. Is yes, it is the energy crisis, high inflation. The German economy is contracting, and it looks like there could be a recession probably the end of the year next year now. But also we're talking about global recession. Even in the UK, we're talking about a potential recession as well. But all it could take is for a sudden ceasefire, say in Russia, for them to pull out of the Ukraine, turn the gas taps back on, and then the euro could just strengthen overnight by, say, 10%. It could happen. And again, nobody knows, what Putin's thinking, what he's going to do next. It's completely out of our control. And that, as I said, could happen. But aside from things like war, inflation is a really huge thing at the moment, a real concern for the Fed. And also, which you want the US dollar to be strong because you're selling your US dollars and you're buying euros. But actually, the government and the Fed do not want the US dollar to be strong. They already think it's too strong at the moment because it's going to impact US exports. So they really need the US dollar to be actually a little bit weaker than what it is now. So what we've seen in the past is that if they think it's too strong, they will actively intervene and actually weaken the currency. So as I said, I know you want it to be strong, but they don't. So there's a few things that could happen that, again, could weaken the US dollar. And we could see the rate move against you. So at the moment, great time to buy, but it's just putting that sort of thought in your mind that there's quite a few things out there that unfortunately are sort of out of our control, or it's really hard for the market to forecast as to what's really going to happen. Canadian dollar, quite similar story. So if you've got any Canadians on the webinar today as well, they're delivering excessive rate hikes as well due to inflation and high prices as well. So everybody's suffering from a similar thing, UK, Eurozone, about the energy price crisis, inflation. But the Canadian economy does seem a little bit more resilient than the US. So, but now we're trading at 9-year highs for the Canadian dollar. So again, really, really, really good levels. Okay, if you're in the UK, again, not quite the same story as you have in the US. But if we look at the graph, again, it's looking at it historically. If we look in the past few months, yes, we haven't been as high as the 120s that we saw, but if you look overall, it's still quite good levels in the last 5 or 6 years. So one of the examples I had was that if you were selling US dollars and buying euros, if we look over a 12-month period from now until 12 months ago, same time last year, the difference on buying 250,000 euros is 46,000 US dollars. So this time last year, it was $46,000 more expensive to buy 250,000 euros. Similar to Canadian dollar, 12 months ago, it was 52 Canadian dollars more expensive to buy 250,000 euros. The sterling, it was only £3,500 more expensive. So again, we've sort of similar levels to what we're seeing last year, but certainly for US dollar, Canadian dollar, it's a much better position. And that's why I'm talking about your timeframes. A lot of people that I speak to say, I want to move in 2023. I'm moving in, you know, it's a longer process of actually moving to Portugal. When did you start this journey? What's the rate now? You know, it's looking at it in your timeframes. Again, everybody's different. Some people come to us and say, I need to buy a property and that's coming up very soon. I need to pay a deposit by the end of the month. So again, your timeframes are different for somebody who is moving money in, say, 6 months' time, for example. So we're taking into consideration a lot of those factors when we're speaking to you and putting a plan together to decide what's the best action for you.
Excellent. All right, Sarah, thank you very much for those. And we can come back to looking at those rates later on in the graphs, if you prefer, when the recording is over, and we come to some more of the personal questions at the end as well. Do get any questions you'd like to ask now in the chat. A question that comes up is, why don't I just do this myself with my bank? That tends to be people's DIY approach, doesn't it? I'll just go and use my bank, the first person I could think of. Why would you say to people, no, don't do that, use us, the experts?
No, absolutely. What I say, I've quoted a few times, is that, you know, when you think about it, why do you come to Expats Portugal? You know, you're looking for help, you're looking for experts. So if you're getting your visa, you know, you go to visa specialists. Similarly, in your own country, you wanted to get a mortgage, you go to a mortgage broker or insurance broker. You go to generally specialists in their field. It's not to say that you can't do it yourself, but again, there's that extra level of expertise, knowledge of the industry that'll help you get your goal or whatever that you need to do. And really, this is no different. If you're doing sort of smaller amounts, yes, online, do it quick and easy yourself. But it's when you're coming to actually do the larger amounts, that's where you'll see the difference, where maybe you just want that extra support of, you know, suddenly you're transferring a large sum of money, you've got to press that button. It's maybe a little bit daunting. There's things that we're doing really in the background, perhaps people don't really realize, is that, you know, one of the things is we check the beneficiary account details. So we'll ring the third party and just double check those details for you. You know, if you get an email from a lawyer with details on, human error, someone could put a digit wrong, it could be intercepted. So again, we're just double checking all that. But even for yourself, you know, if you get one digit on a 26 character IBAN wrong, as long as that account detail is valid, if you were doing it yourself on an online platform, it would go. Yeah. Whereas we're sort of stepping in there and just making sure that those details are correct and that they're being inputted correctly as an extra check, and just make sure that your money is going where it needs to go. Because if you did with sort of an online provider, if it went to the wrong account, how do you fix that? Who do you speak to? So again, we're just trying to stop all that sort of things happening and make sure that your money goes to the right place. What we do as well is that when we have your euros, we maybe suggest sending a small test to that account just to make sure it goes smoothly before, again, and it goes to the right place before maybe you send a larger sum. Again, it's just those extra sort of measures. Just we want to be due diligent with your money and make sure that it ends up in the right account for you.
Okay, brilliant, excellent. Thank you very much. Well, good evening to people from California this evening, Texas as well. That's fantastic. Montreal, we had a look at the Canadian loonie there, didn't we? Thank you very much for that and telling me about that in the first place, Sarah, what they call their currency over there. Toronto as well this evening, Washington, DC, and a great question just in from Linda. Does it make sense? This is all about timing, isn't it? So you've dealt with the margins of error there and using the experts to minimize that side of things. But what about the timing? Linda asks, does it make sense to send you dollars to convert now when I won't be in Portugal until November and plan on opening a bank account then?
We can never tell anyone what to do, so it has to be your decision. So at the end of the day, so there's no, you know, that's but as I said, we're looking at the rates now. Again, it's everybody's down to the individual. Some people will prefer to wait and some people won't. We had an example of a customer who wanted it to go a little bit lower, and sometimes I think when you put it in monetary values, it suddenly makes more sense. So really they were looking for the rate to move, and really they'd have only gained maybe, I don't know, $300 a bit cheaper. But actually if the rate moves 3 to 4%, which it has done, you're talking a difference in thousands. So you're waiting for a rate to get a little bit better where you'll save $300, but then the rate moves against you and all of a sudden you're at a loss of $3,000-4,000 US. So sometimes it's worthwhile just sort of thinking about what you're holding off for. The thing is, you can buy your euros as well in advance. There's a couple of different options that you have available. One is that we can hold the euros on account free of charge for you. It's not a cost. We'll hold it there, and then you can make payments to third parties from the account as well. And then as soon as you've got it open, you can move that money. The other thing which we do a lot with over the years with property purchases, again, the example I'd use is when you're buying a property in your home country, you get given a price. And apart from the extra fees of maybe the lawyers or the survey or extra things that you're paying for, the price you've agreed is the price that you pay. But now you're given a price in euros for that property. But when you come to complete, which could be 6 to 12 weeks time, again, there could be delays. What's the rate going to be then? That property could be more expensive. It could be cheaper, which would be fantastic. But again, it's thinking about what your budget is. So we had a customer who bought in Greece last year, or was it the year before? And he really wanted this property, and the seller had put the price up, but he decided he would go ahead with it, but it was the top of his budget. So he fixed the rate. He put down a 10% deposit with us, not a cost or a charge, fixed the rate and paid the remaining 90% when he needed it. But it meant that he knew exactly how much those euros were going to cost him, because he couldn't afford for the price to be more expensive, because he'd already increased his budget to buy the property and that his reserves were kind of gone. So again, it really depends on your situation as well. How I see it is that it just helps you control those costs. You know exactly how much that's gonna cost you. What I would say is that a lot of our customers are buying their euros now, either the full amount. You could maybe do a small amount or half, just to maybe spread that risk.
Okay, excellent. So not telling you what to do, Linda, but indicative and some experiences of other people there, which might help you to make your own decision about that. The other part of timing, of course, as well, it's not just when to convert, and obviously that's your sovereign decision to make, but not leaving it too late. That's another part of the timing piece, isn't it, so to speak, is not to wait and do this right at the last minute for all sorts of reasons. But you could be forgiven for thinking that. I'll deal with that when I come to it. But you can do it sooner rather than later. Open up a Spartan account.
I mean, if you wait and it gets better, that's great. If you buy it now and, as I said, it goes up and you think, oh, I've missed, I could have got a bit extra, you're still buying at very good levels.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And I suspect your advice, not advice, your indication might be to open an account early rather than late, because you don't want that sort. I think what tends to happen is you get this sort of hockey stick curve of things to do as you're migrating, and you think, okay, I've checked that box, I'll do that later, and then all of these things can come in. These chickens can come home to roost at one time, and you're up against the deadline of moving country. So if somebody were to want to open a Spartan FX account, they could do that sooner rather than later. They don't have to start converting money just to have the account open, do they?
No, it's completely free to open the account. And again, there's no obligation to use us, but definitely recommend doing that, because you can get to know us. Part of the personal service, I'd say, a lot of the Expats Portugal members have said they feel like it's been they're part of a family. I was in the office the other day, and American customer called in, spoke to Steve. I heard a little bit of the conversation, and she was like, "Hi Steve, how are you doing?" It's like she's speaking to a friend, which was lovely. So get to know whoever you're dealing with on our end, and again, that's it. The key is getting to know your situation. Yes. What are your time frames? What does that look like? Again, it might not be right for everybody to move it now. They might not have all the money available. Again, we have options there that you just need 10%. But it's really finding the right solution for you. And I think the other things to bear in mind is that if you speak to us early, that's free, but it gives you more options. Whereas when you need to pay a deadline and you need to do it today, tomorrow, you've got no choice. You just have to take the rate on the day, which is fine because you'll save money against your bank or provider, but you might have had more options. You could wait and that's your decision, but at least you know you've had more options to think about and possibly do other things if you needed to.
Yes. Yes, and you're trading ready, aren't you? I suppose might be one way of putting it. If you open your account.
Absolutely. I've seen it over the years, especially around election times, for example. Again, rates can move very quickly. People all of a sudden are ringing in and would like to, make an exchange. They haven't got an account open. I mean, it doesn't take a long time to open, but rates can move that quickly that at least if you've got it open and you want to act on something very quickly, you've got that option.
There you go. You can set it all up, spartanfx.co.uk. We have a great question from Lewis as well. Can you comment on tax implications? Not a tax advisor, but you might have a sort of bigger picture input on this. Can you comment on tax implications, considerations when moving money to Portugal, especially for Americans? What would you make of that, Sarah?
I would say, again, like what I said earlier, you speak to the expert. So I would speak to a tax expert on that. I would certainly say from our perspective, we don't have to declare anything to anybody.
Right.
No, we don't speak to anybody. Nobody knocks on our door and asks for this information. All the years I've worked, we don't get involved with that. So it's not a case of you deal with us and we're passing your information on to whoever for the tax reasons. We don't, and nobody, as I said, comes and asks those questions of us. But for you and your money, then definitely do speak to an expert.
Yeah, and we have those as well, Louis. So I don't know if that's what you were asking in a roundabout way, Louis, if someone does come and knock on the door and ask questions about movements from America. But on that matter of Americans and dealing with American customers, you're obviously a UK-based company, .co.uk there. Tell us about how Americans are protected when dealing with Spartan FX, with Spartan being in the UK and then being in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not an American firm, as I'd say. I mean, there are obviously other competitors out there in our space, certainly operating in this area. But there's a couple of things. One is that, we have adapted the way we contact customers. So again, you can WhatsApp us. We work different hours of the day. We can really accommodate the time difference there as well. But also what's more important is, as Jerry mentioned about doing due diligence on his partners, is in order for us to operate in certain countries, not all, but certain countries, you do need to hold certain licenses. There's certain regulatory things that we need to do. So for example, in the UK, it's the FCA, but also in the US, it's a little bit different. It's FinCEN, but also you've got to have a money transmitter license in every state that you want to work in. It's not just one license for the whole of America. You've actually physically got to go and get the license for each state, which is why not many people can, because obviously that's quite an expensive exercise to do. But the way that we've set up the business, we partner with a company called Currency Cloud. They do about $3 billion a month. They've just been bought by Visa, so very well established company, and they have all the licenses that we need to be able to deal with all the different states in America.
Okay, that's really good to know. Thank you very much. This business of the ACH, acronym check. What is that all about? What is the ACH? This has been asked incidentally on our forum. And thank you very much for people who ask questions on our forum, expatsportugal.com/community. This ACH business then, Sarah, can you?
Yeah, so it's a transfer from your account, more of a local transfer in the US, basically, which you're probably quite familiar with. You're probably doing at the moment to friends and family. So the only thing that's different, although we have the licenses to deal with people in America, if you are based in America, we're not able to accept the ACH transfers. It has to be done by an international transfer. Yeah. But if you're based in Portugal, then we can set it up and we can accept ACH and Fed wire transfers as well. The thing that we found, what's interesting, even across the board on other things, not just the ACH, is that it seems to be that we're aware that some people have still been charged making ACH transfers. Right. But we see sometimes that actually it's not down to necessarily the payment method, but it's a lot to do with the bank, what type of account you have, and what state you live in. It all very varies. We found it a real mixture from client to client as to what they're charged. And as I said, we have one client that banks with one bank, another client banks with the same bank and they're in a different state and they're charged differently. It's
Okay.
very strange.
So it is quite difficult to get the bottom of, and it will be a very individual thing. We can't make a blanket statement about that.
Exactly. And I think the other thing to bear in mind is that, yes, if you are charged, you know, on your largest sums, say it's a $30 US charge or a $40 charge on a larger transfer, for example, what you're saving against your bank provider could be hundreds or thousands of dollars or pounds, if you're looking at it from that perspective, rather than thinking, oh, well, I won't be charged from my bank. Okay, yes, you're saving $30, but actually you're then going to get a worse rate, so you're actually paying more in the exchange rate.
Okay, good to know. And do you happen to know if there are any transfer limits with the ACH system? That was something somebody asked as well.
I believe it's $1 million US.
Okay, so that should cover it in most instances then. Okay, a few other simple questions. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I've really boosted up my microphone. Thanks for all the feedback to get our levels the same on the webinar tonight. Thanks for being here. Do you need a NIF number, the great Portuguese NIF number? Do you need one of those to open a Spartan FX account? And I bet you didn't know about NIF numbers until you started dealing with the Portuguese scene, Sarah.
Absolutely, I didn't know, but you do, yeah, you do need a NIF to buy property and open a bank account. But no, you do not need a NIF to open a Spartan FX account. In fact, people are using us to pay for their NIFs.
Yes. Very good. Okay, there you go. I like it. All right. And how you may have said this before, but just to clarify, because it is an important question that's come from the forum, how long does it take to open one of your accounts?
It varies. I mean, I'd say as a standard, not very long. We do, as I said, again, due diligence on our customers, and the reason we do it is to protect all our existing customers, to make sure that we check who we're dealing with. So again, there's just simple checks. There might be some documentation that we might need, proof of address, proof of ID. Again, depending on what you're doing, the amounts you're transferring. If you're transferring larger sums, then you often do need to provide the reasons for the transfer. It's to abide with anti-money laundering regulations. So I'd say we can get an account open literally in the day, half a day. But again, it depends how quickly we can get documentation from you and the right documentation. But we can talk you through that and make that as easy as possible. So it really just depends on that paperwork turnaround.
So likely, we're talking a matter of days though, aren't we? We're not
yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. What's the account called to transfer US dollars to euros without fees? I don't know if that's a question directly for you or if that's something that Howard is asking somebody else, but does that ring any bells for you?
What's an account called?
I don't know. Howard, I think you might need to elaborate on that. And in the meantime, we'll go to Paul Richards. Holding money from pension funds and exchanging when the rate is good, setting an exchange rate. I'm not sure how to make sense of that question either, but we do have people, don't we, working with you who are transferring their pensions.
Absolutely. We have customers that are transferring their pension. We have customers that are transferring rental income or an income that they're getting from their home country. It varies. I mean, some people, it depends, I suppose, how you need the money. A lot of times over the years in the past, I've dealt with a lot of, from being a British company, we've dealt with a lot of British people that are living now in Spain, for example, and they're transferring their pension, but they need it every month because they're living off it. So they have to have it every month. If you don't have to have it every month, then obviously you've got a bit more flexibility. You can group them amounts together. I would say with us, what's different is it doesn't matter how much you're transferring. There's no scale of you get a better rate the more you transfer. We see it that it should be fair on our customers that we price you the same on any of the amounts that you transfer with us. So that's not the case. But it may be that you might want to wait and have a little look at the rate and see what's happening there with that.
All right, thank you very much for that. I hope that helps, Paul. Another one from the forum then. Can you, Spartan, can the accounts be used to pay for a lease, a rental lease or a home purchase without a Portuguese bank account? Now, I'm assuming that means your own Portuguese bank account. If you just want to put money in someone else's Portuguese bank account, there would be no reason why you couldn't do that, would there?
No, we can pay third parties, and that's what's really great about our accounts that are slightly different to other traditional brokers, is that the accounts are actually in your name. So you get given a unique IBAN number that's unique to you, that's in your name, and that makes it easier for third parties to pay you and for you to pay third parties. So when they look at their bank statement, they'll see your name and then the amount that you transferred to them. But we transfer money to pretty much anybody, really. Well, I'd say within reason. Obviously there's unsavory characters, and maybe not, but we transfer to lawyers, we transfer to buy a property, we transfer to friends and family, we paid an art gallery removal fees, to removal service, we pay to them. So really anything that you're doing. The only thing that I know is a stipulation is that when you're paying for the golden visa, the money needs to come out of your Portuguese euro account. So we can still do the conversion for you, we can put it into your euro account, but then the money has to come out of that account. I think that's the only stipulation. But property, as long as the account's in your name, it's fine.
Yes. Okay. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for that. Keep those questions coming in. And if you would prefer not to ask a question that's being recorded and will be published on the internet, you can do so when we end the recording in a little while, after we've asked all the other questions that are here already. And another one from the forum. How long can money remain in a Spartan FX account whilst waiting for the Portuguese bank account to open? Do you have time limits on holding money?
No, we don't. Again, the way that we've got our licensing, we can hold money on account for you. Really, I suppose, well, not forever, but yeah, there's no time limit on that. The only thing I would say is that it's not an interest earning account, so you don't earn interest on it like that kind of bank account, but we can hold the funds for as long as you need us to.
Yeah. Okay, superb. Thank you very much, everybody, for your questions. More of them coming now. Is sending funds out of a Spartan FX account a self-service process, or does the person who has the account need to call you to enable and enact that?
It depends. It's entirely up to you. So we have an online platform, so you can use it very similar to your bank account. You can go log in, you can view everything on there, you can view your balances, and you can make those payments. You can even make the exchange yourself if you want to, and you can make the payments out yourself. But a lot of what we find is a lot of clients do prefer us to do it for them, which we can, and we can take those instructions by email or over the telephone.
Great. So either. That's excellent. Pedro, thank you for this question. Which some of these questions tonight are lacking a bit of context, and I understand that can be a bit difficult when you're trying to get it into the chat and get it answered. But if we're planning, says Pedro, to open a bank account in Portugal, is it a good idea to open a Spartan account and deposit a couple of thousands there? I don't see why not, but I'm wondering what's behind your question. What sense would you make of that, Sarah?
I mean, once your account's open, it's super flexible. I mean, you can use it like a bank account and you can pay people. I mean, we had a customer who she wanted us to pay bills for her because she didn't like the online banking of her Portuguese bank. She didn't like it. She couldn't work it. So we pay her bills for her from her Spartan FX account. So it's entirely, you can use it.
Clarify that. You don't pay her bills for her, as in
it's her money.
Right? Yeah. That would get everybody signing up tonight.
Yeah, that's it. Almost an influx. Oh, they pay our bills for us. Great. Where do I sign up?
Not extend to that, just to be clear.
But you can use it as much and as little as you want, in as far as you can transfer. If you've got a Portuguese account, obviously you can transfer it all there, or as I said, you can use us. Again, it's if you're in Portugal, then it's probably easier because you're there where your bank account is, for example, whereas if you're in America or the UK and you're not where your bank is, again, how easy is it for you to make those transfers out of that account? As I said, this woman that we have, the American customer, she's not in the country, she's in America, so she just finds it easier for us to do that rather than her to deal with a Portuguese bank. But I'm sure when she moves, obviously then she's in the country, she'll probably find that easier. And that's the other thing as well to think about this early on, is not just about the rate. We see it a lot, which is why I mention it all the time, but it is really important. The reason why I say think about moving your money before you need to or leave your home country is because it can be a little bit harder, possibly. So we've seen it where a customer's really, again, it depends on the type of account you've got. You know, some people have brokerage accounts, some won't send money internationally. He's had to fly back to America in order to make that transfer. We've seen people give power of attorney to a family member. Again, just check what you need, whether it be signing any documentation, whether it be an international card reader. Some American banks, we have it in the UK, where you get basically a little, it looks like a little calculator, you slot your card in, and it's just another level of authorization. And I think you can get it for free in branch, but you need to apply for it in your branch. Again, not all American banks, just some. So again, it's just checking what you need to do before you leave. The other thing as well is online banking has a limit often on how much you do each day. It varies bank to bank, but I think it can be about $10,000 or pounds, which if you're buying a property, you could find you're making a transfer every day for 2 weeks, which is fine, but obviously that's hassle.
Well, other things to do in your life, yeah.
But I think there's two things you've got to bear in mind. One, if that's the case, you've got to bear in mind when you need the full amount to be in someone's account, the lawyer's account, and obviously make sure you're working back. So that's the other thing. We make sure that whatever your payment timeframes are, we fit in with that and make sure that your money's where it needs to be. But maybe some customers can speak to their bank and ask if they could increase their limit.
Yes. Okay.
So again, it's definitely worth investigating and asking these sort of questions. Always easier to do it when you're in America, in the UK, in Canada before you leave. Harder when you're actually in Portugal, or a much more expensive trip to go back to sort it out.
Ideally, you do not want to be doing that. You don't need that, as well as everything else that's going on. Again, a question that might be lacking a bit of context, but might be at face value. Do you take direct deposits in dollars from US? Why wouldn't you?
Cash?
Yes. Oh, is that what Franklin means here, possibly?
I don't know. Does he mean by cash or a check? No, we don't. It's only electronic transfer, so no checks and no cash.
All right. If you are one of those people who still uses checks, then afraid not, and no way of paying cash in. If that is indeed what you meant, Franklin, so you might want to let us know if that has clarified for you and answered your question. With Dan here, we've got when wiring money from the US-based institutions to Spartan Currency Cloud, is there any extensive requirement to show a source of funds? I think you touched on this briefly, beyond the originating institutions, for example, compliance with the AML regulations.
Yeah, it really depends on the amounts and the reasons for the transfer, to be honest. Often it's quite straightforward. Often it can just be a bank statement, if it's sort of salary or savings. But again, if it's a bit more complicated, we can talk you through that and help you with that.
Okay, I think Paul's is more of a statement here. You can set a rate when to buy and exchange, which is a facility I think he's glad to have been able to take advantage of, right? You can.
Yeah, you can. So there's a few options. Is what we call, but you can set orders in the market for specific rates, and you can do it either way. You can either look out for a better rate of exchange, and also you can not look for a worse, but make sure it doesn't go below a certain amount. And there's two different ways you can do it. One, it's an automated rate, so it means as soon as it hits, it'll automatically buy for you, or what they call a watch order, which means we're watching out for that rate. As soon as it hits that, we notify you and say, right, it's hit this rate, do you want to go ahead and buy it? So there's definitely things like that we can do. We're monitoring the rates in the background, we're keeping in contact with you, we're ringing you when we see rate movements as well. So it's not just down to you to be looking at it. That's what we do, that's our job day in, day out. And we will notify you, which is why it's key for us to speak to you and get to know you so that we know what you're looking for. The only thing I would say is if you are doing it yourself, again, do speak to us for a bit of help on that, because over the years we've seen that people, it's pointless putting in something that might be unrealistic, or something that it could hit tomorrow, but actually it could get a bit better and you might have better to set a bit higher. We can give you a bit of guidance on that as well.
Excellent. Thanks for that prompt on that as well, Paul. Good question from Johnny Cocktail. Good evening to you. Can the account be in the name of our trust and not our individual name? So naming of accounts, are you able to do that?
Yes, so we if it's we deal with businesses as well. So if it's a business that you're setting up, we can do that. And we can set it in different names as well. So I don't think that should be a problem.
Okay, so this will lead us inevitably onto what it costs and what the commissions are. So let's answer that in the big picture using a specific question here. Also, it says, Dan, is there any fee to receive or send euros without conversion through Spartan's Bank in the UK? For example, from a US-based multi-currency account to a Portuguese account with Spartan holding the euros in the meantime while waiting for the Portuguese account to be opened. That's a bit convoluted and complicated, but were you able to see what's at the bottom?
Well, as I said, there's no fees to hold the money on account. I know that some can charge a percentage per day. I think it's per day if you're holding over 15,000 euros, but there's no charge with us. So there's no fee for us to hold that money on account. With us, there's no transfer fees. So the only way that we make our money is on the rate between what we buy and what we sell. I think probably the easiest way to describe it is almost like a wholesale price is what we buy at, and then we sell at a different price, just as you would with most products. That's essentially how it works. But it's very transparent, and as I said, there's no other charges there. There's no transfer fees on our end.
Okay, that's great. So Dan, I hope that answers your specific question, and for everybody else, there you go. No fees specifically with working with Spartan FX there. Lisa and Rhonda's questions, we'll put them together. Is the money held at Spartan insured? And Rhonda goes on to say, in the US, funds in a bank account are FDIC insured. Are the funds in Spartan FX insured? So yes, the insurance, the security of holding people's money, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So our accounts are with Barclays, which is a tier 1 account. And what's I've mentioned before is unique is that our client accounts are in your name. So you get this unique IBAN, but that means it segregates the funds per client. So all the accounts are safeguarded and they're protected to the total value of the funds held on account. So even if the financial institution holding those funds went into liquidity, I mean, if Barclays went under, I think probably the world would be screwed, but that would not happen because the government would step in. So the safeguards there. But equally, if the financial institution went under, the funds held in the safeguard accounts, because they're of the way that they're held, they're segregated per client, they're untouchable. So all our clients' funds are protected regardless of the value, and then you would get the full amount back. Whereas what happens with other companies in our industry is the accounts aren't in the customer's name, so it's a pooled account, so all client funds are in one account, and it means that the overall account then is only protected up to about 85,000 or 100,000 euros, because it's one account, if that makes sense. But the way that ours is set up, your account sits under that, it's individual, and that money will go back first, and then they come after that money, which is our money. So you'll get your money back.
Yes. Okay. There you go, Lisa and Rhonda. I'm sure that's comforting to know. Thank you for that, Sarah. But somebody did ask about Wise earlier on. Wise always comes up when we talk, doesn't it, Sarah? I may have missed the question earlier, but how does a Spartan account compare in terms of a service to something like Wise? I don't know how much Wise I have just heard. Johnny, I'm losing you here, but I think the gist of it is, and Dan has come in to help with this as well. I mean, basically, it's the comparison between yourselves and Wise. And Dan says, typically, Wise costs more to convert currency. So that's being answered for you, which is fantastic. And even before they raised their fees this week. So what have Wise been up to? And are you even better than them than you were before?
Yes. So again, the way that we've set up the business means we have a lot less overheads, and it means we can be very competitive on price. So yes, we can beat them on price, but it really is the service. So we have an online platform, so you can go off and do it yourself. I think sort of a smaller amounts, then maybe that's a good solution. But as I said, it's on those sort of larger sums. We're finding a lot of customers. I mean, we're finding actually some Expats Portugal members have used Wise for a small amount, and now they've come to use us. And it's that personal service of being able to speak to somebody that I think they feel is that reassurance. I think, similar to Expats Portugal, we're dealing with we have previously and now are dealing with lots of customers in a very similar position to you. So we know what you're going through, and what we've learned from them, we can help pass that on to you as well. So again, there's that kind of personal sort of experience that we have with you moving your money to Portugal that we can help with, understanding sort of the banking systems in the US, the UK, in Portugal, to help make that smooth transfer of your money. Whether it be any questions that the bank's asking. We've had a customer who was in their bank in the US, in the branch. Bank was asking them some questions, they weren't sure. They did a WhatsApp video call with my colleague Ben, and Ben spoke to the bank teller. As I said before, their system, if you put in the wrong details, as long as the IBAN's correct, it will go to that account. So again, it's really just making sure that those beneficiary account details are correct, and then it's going to the right account. Because if it's not, again, who do you speak to? We've had customers that have struggled to send the right paperwork in, and the wires have exchanged their money back, so they've lost money on the rate. So we found a lot of them, they can't speak to somebody, and that can get quite frustrating. I think that's the biggest thing there.
Okay, I think we've done your question justice there finally, Johnny. Sorry, I messed it up at the beginning there, but you were saying you heard about WISE through discussions with people who are participating in the Golden Visa Scheme. I would say for sums of that kind, you really want to be working with Spartan. And to be fair to WISE, and as Allegra says here, you do get the card, don't you? So for the everyday smaller transactions, and you were talking before, Sarah, weren't you, about having options? It is good to have options. I don't think it necessarily needs to be either. It's like what's best in which instance. In the big golden visa arena, where big amounts of money are moving around, Spartan may make a lot more sense than WISE. But then when you're on the high street or you're paying with a card, there is the convenience of doing that. And Spartan as yet don't have a card.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, for small amounts, I think they're very good. And we've said it before, they've got the card, which we don't have. So that's a great solution for you. But again, on those larger amounts, it's, as we said, which is great, sort of coming on the webinar to talk about it, it's really the rate movement. So yes, we can save money against them on the day, but where we've saved clients more money is helping to manage those rate fluctuations. It's fixing the rate for that property payment, or helping you buy your euros now. And they do charge you to hold money on account. It is I don't know what the percentage is, I can't remember, but it's on their website, you can see it, and it's over 15,000 euros they'll charge you to hold money on account. So we had a customer Expats Portugal member, that came to us who'd already made an exchange. They have some money on account over 15,000 euros, and they were going to be charged, and I think the charges in the end were nearly at 1,500 euros. Yes. So he's lost money just by holding it with them. So he moved the money to us, and we're holding it for him. So again, it's little things, depends on your situation. For some people, it's a great solution and it's the right one for you. Yes. But for others, this is really beneficial.
Excellent. And thank you, Dan, for your input there. They raised according to Dan, they've raised their fees this week as well. Okay, something to watch out for there. Franklin, I think we covered this before. Let's go back to it, Sarah. Franklin says, my pension says they can direct deposit overseas. Do you have the capability to accept such? You can take the pension payments, can't you?
Yeah, we can do that, pension payments.
Really good questions tonight. Thanks, everybody. This one from Alison. Can an account holder name a beneficiary of the holdings in the account in case of death? So next of kin and those sorts of situations, how would that work?
We can put accounts in joint names. I'd have to double check because I haven't actually experienced this for a while, which is a good thing to say. But I think, as with any, I'd say it's probably going to be similar to bank accounts that's not in your name. If it's in your spouse's name and it's not in your name, how do you get access to that money? I imagine proof, death certificate, proof that, they're dead and that you can access this money is a similar thing, I would say.
Yeah, that would be the other way of doing that, Alison. But yes, joint account might be the way too. So presumably in that instance, it can be either of the signatories. It doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Right, Allegra, I don't have a bank account in Portugal, although I live here. That's novel. Allegra, can my health insurance refund me doctor's medical fees, since a percentage? Can they be refunded to my Spartan account? Don't see why not.
I think wherever you have the option to either pay a bank account, be given bank account details, or you've got a form or something to fill in where they're saying put bank account details and where you want the payment to be made, this will work. It's where maybe, I don't know, I'm booking a hotel through booking.com and I'm paying with my card.
Yes.
That doesn't work. But if you're getting an invoice where you need to pay, you know, for example, your like Global International Relocation, one of the removal services of Expats Portugal, they give you their bank account details, and we've been paying a few of those for customers, and we pay direct to them.
Excellent. So it's banking details that are the important thing, rather than say your reverse payments on credit cards and so on. So I think that would work for you, Allegra. We can clarify that when we go to the mics off, when we go to the mute off and mics on after the recording has stopped here tonight. So let's just wrap up before we do that. You've mentioned larger amounts a couple of times when considering when to DIY versus use Spartan. Can you give us a sense of larger amounts? That's how long is a piece of string again, isn't it? But
well, I mean, I would say, you know, what's your, you know, NIF payments, or, you know, we've seen things like 20,000. I mean, I'd still say that's a large sum, really. But then obviously we've got people that are doing property purchases that are maybe 250,000, or we've had customers do over 1 million. So obviously they're much larger, but I would still say maybe sort of, you know, 20,000, something like that. Again, there's no minimum, so you can really do small amounts if you wish with us. It's not a case of you only have to do it. Once you've got the account, you can use us for anything. But obviously if you do need a card, then the Wise obviously is a better option for that. But once you've got the account, you can use us for any amounts. If you want to purchase a car in your, I don't know, 7,000 euros, then you can certainly do that with us as well. We've got customers who are doing smaller amounts with us as well.
And you've always said you can pay the pool man.
Pay the pool man. As long as he gives you a bank account, we can pay the pool man.
That's right. So there you go. I hope that answers your question.
Although he might want it in cash though. So
yes, which we, you know, that's between you and them, and we would not get involved in such matters. Okay. Howard, just a few quickies then before we wrap up on the recording here. How do you access the funds from Spartan when in Portugal on a day-to-day basis? Does Spartan have an app? What you said earlier, Sarah, was it's online, isn't it? You access your account through an online.
Yeah, so you can log in and view it very much like your bank account, so you can see your balances, and as I said, you can do exchanges or make payments out yourself, or a lot of people just ring up or email us and tell us where they want the money to be sent. You know, especially once we've got the beneficiary account details on file, then you can say, can you pay this person? Can you pay that person? And we can do that. We can do that easily for you.
Good, thank you. It's getting worse for Wise, according to our participants tonight. Wise, extremely frustrating to deal with. Service very poor, says Allegra. And Rhonda says, actually, Wise charges to hold funds over $3,000.
Or is it 3,000 now? Oh, must have changed.
Getting smaller every week, by the sound of it. A great penultimate question. Oh, two more quickies. How far into the future can you fix a rate?
You can fix the rate 2 years.
2 years, okay. Thank you for that. That's for David. And for Linda, what about Social Security payments from the US? That comes up from time to time, doesn't it? Social
Security, it depends. I wouldn't say it's every customer. We've had a bit of a mixture. Again, similar to what I said at the beginning, we find with the banking system in America, which again, I suppose the benefit of using us over your bank is a better service, but it varies state to state, bank to bank. So there's a lot of different things there. But we could give it a try. For some, it's worked fine, and others it hasn't. So I'll be honest with that. Okay. The big final question: how to open one of these Spartan FX accounts? Then, Sarah, what's the quickest and easiest way to do that? The quickest and easiest way, well, I mean, Carl, can we put the link in the chat? But also we're on the directory. There's a link inquiry form there. Email address expatsportugal@spartanfx.co.uk. Email us and we'll be in touch.
There you go. We'll make sure you have that, and that will be on the recording in the comments underneath the video there for anybody who needs that. Howard says, thank you, Car and Sarah. Great questions, everyone. I'd agree with that. Excellent questions. And Kimberly, Sarah, you've been so helpful as always. Isn't that fantastic?
Oh,
Thank you so much,
thank you.
And we'll turn the recording off there, and we'll go to some more maybe questions that people don't want to ask publicly. One of the benefits of being here live on the call and the preferential treatment that the premium members get. Thank you very much for that so far, Sarah.